Ladies and gentlemen, there is a unique beauty in solitude, a kind of alchemy that transforms hardship into strength and uncertainty into clarity. Today I stand before you not to celebrate triumphs as others see them, but to share the essence of walking a path alone and finding oneself in the process. To be alone is not to be isolated, it is to be present with oneself. In those moments when the world felt distant and hands meant to hold you withdrew, I discovered a silent companion, my inner voice. It whispered that strength is not about never falling, it is about rising without waiting for someone else to offer a hand. There were times when doubt tried to anchor me, times when I longed for someone to show me the way. But I realized that no one truly can. Others may light the path, but walking it is a deeply personal act. When I stopped seeking permission from the world, I began to build a foundation from within. The loneliness that once felt like a shadow became a space of transformation. In that silence I understood something profound: the universe never truly leaves us alone. The winds that howl, the rivers that flow, the stars that shine, they are all witnesses, urging us to keep moving forward. Taking responsibility for my journey was the most liberating act of all. No excuses, no blame, just the clarity that my life was mine to shape. And as I reflect, I see not isolation, but a connection to something greater. By walking alone, I became more attuned to the rhythm of life itself. So I did it alone is not a statement of pride, but of truth. It is a reminder that we all have within us the strength to persevere, the courage to trust, and the wisdom to grow. And in doing so, we discover that while the path may begin alone, it ultimately leads us back to a profound unity with the world around us. The journey of self-reliance is an experience both profound and humbling, a testament to the human spirit's capacity to endure and evolve when left to its own devices. It begins not with a conscious choice, but often with an unanticipated moment, a fork in the road where no one else can guide us, and we realize that we must walk forward unaided. It is in these moments of solitude, whether welcomed or imposed, that the seeds of self-reliance begin to take root, growing quietly beneath the surface of our awareness. Self-reliance is not the absence of connection or community, rather, it is the ability to move through life with the understanding that, at the core of our being, we possess all the tools necessary to navigate the complexities of existence. To be self-reliant is not to reject the presence of others or to turn away from help when it is offered, but to recognize that our truest source of strength comes from within. This recognition is not always immediate. It often emerges from hardship, from those moments when we are left alone to face challenges that feel insurmountable. In the crucible of such experiences, something remarkable happens. We begin to understand that we are capable of far more than we once believed. The process of becoming self-reliant is deeply transformative, as it requires us to confront our own fears and insecurities head-on. When we rely on others, there is often a subtle sense of reassurance that someone will catch us if we fall. But in the absence of that safety net, we are forced to grapple with the reality that we must catch ourselves. This can be terrifying at first, as it demands a level of accountability that is both daunting and liberating. The fear of failure looms large, but it is precisely this fear that sharpens our resolve and pushes us to dig deeper, to find reserves of strength we never knew existed. As we embark on this journey, we come to see that the obstacles we encounter are not merely barriers to overcome, but opportunities for growth. Each challenge, no matter how daunting, teaches us something about ourselves, our resilience, our ingenuity, our capacity to adapt. These lessons are not always apparent in the moment. Often they reveal themselves only in hindsight, when we look back and realize that the very experiences we thought might break us were the ones that ultimately shaped us into who we are. Self-reliance also involves a profound shift in perspective. When we stop looking outward for validation or support and begin to look inward, we discover a wellspring of resources that had always been there, waiting to be tapped. This shift does not mean that we no longer value the input or assistance of others. Rather, it means that we no longer depend on it as a prerequisite for action. We learn to trust ourselves, to believe in our own judgment, and to act with confidence even in the face of uncertainty. This trust is not blind or naive, it is built gradually, through experience and reflection, as we come to understand our own capabilities and limitations. The journey of self-reliance is not a straight path. It is marked by detours and setbacks, by moments of doubt and frustration. There are times when we will stumble, when the weight of our burdens feels too heavy to bear. But these moments are not failures, they are integral parts of the process. Each stumble is a lesson, each misstep an opportunity to recalibrate and move forward with greater clarity. Over time, we come to see that even our struggles have value, for they are the crucible in which our strength is forged. In this journey, solitude plays a crucial role. It is in moments of solitude that we are most attuned to our inner voice, that quiet yet persistent presence that guides us when all other voices have faded away. Solitude allows us to reflect, to process, and to reconnect with our true selves. It is not always comfortable. In fact, it can be deeply unsettling to sit alone with our thoughts, to confront the doubts and fears we often seek to avoid. But it is precisely in these moments of discomfort that we grow. Solitude strips away the distractions and forces us to face ourselves with honesty and courage. It is in this space that self-reliance is cultivated as we learn to find strength not in the noise of the world, but in the stillness within. The journey of self-reliance is also a journey of self-discovery. As we navigate the challenges of life on our own, we begin to uncover aspects of ourselves that we may never have known existed. We discover our resilience, our creativity, our ability to adapt and persevere. We come to understand that we are not defined by our circumstances, but by the way we respond to them. This understanding is empowering, for it reminds us that we are not victims of life, but active participants in it. It gives us the confidence to face whatever comes our way, knowing that we have the inner resources to meet any challenge. The experience of being alone is often accompanied by a profound sense of loneliness, a weight that seems to settle on the soul as we confront the vastness of existence without the immediate comfort of others. Yet this sense of loneliness is in many ways an illusion, a trick of the mind that arises when we equate physical solitude with emotional isolation. In truth, to be alone is not to be abandoned or disconnected. It is to inhabit a space of profound interconnection that we often fail to recognize in the noise of our daily lives. When we feel alone, it is easy to believe that the world has turned its back on us, leaving us to navigate the challenges of life without support. But beneath the surface of this perception lies a deeper reality. We are never truly alone, for we are part of a vast and intricate web of existence that extends far beyond our individual experience. The air we breathe, the ground beneath our feet, the sunlight that warms our skin, all these elements remind us that we are inextricably linked to the world around us. Solitude, then, is not a void, but an invitation to explore this connection in its purest form. The illusion of loneliness often stems from our reliance on external validation and companionship. We are social creatures by nature, and much of our sense of self is shaped by our interactions with others. Yet this reliance can sometimes blind us to the deeper truths of our existence. When we are constantly surrounded by people, we may become so attuned to their voices, their opinions, and their expectations that we lose touch with our own. It is only in solitude that we can begin to hear the faint but persistent whispers of our inner self, calling us to turn inward and rediscover who we are beyond the roles we play and the masks we wear. In moments of solitude, we are confronted with the raw and unfiltered reality of our own thoughts and emotions. This confrontation can be uncomfortable, even painful, as it forces us to face the aspects of ourselves that we may prefer to avoid. Yet it is also a gift, for it is in this space that we can begin to understand the true nature of our loneliness. Loneliness is not the absence of others, but the absence of connection, not only with those around us, but also with ourselves and the world as a whole. When we recognize this, we can begin to bridge the gap, not by seeking out companionship, but by deepening our awareness of the connections that already exist. The paradox of loneliness is that it often obscures the very things that can alleviate it. When we feel alone, our focus tends to narrow, fixating on what we lack rather than what we have. We may long for the presence of others, for the comfort of a familiar voice, or the warmth of a shared moment. Yet in doing so, we overlook the quiet companionship that surrounds us at all times. The rustling of leaves in the wind, the rhythm of our own heartbeat, the distant call of a bird, these are reminders that we are part of something far greater than ourselves, a vast and living tapestry that enfolds us even in our darkest moments. Solitude then becomes a gateway to a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the world. When we embrace the stillness and silence of being alone, we create a space in which we can begin to see beyond the illusion of separation. We come to understand that the boundaries we perceive between ourselves and others, between ourselves and the world, are not fixed but fluid, shifting and dissolving as we open ourselves to the interconnectedness of all things. This understanding does not diminish the reality of our struggles or the pain of our loneliness, but it transforms them, allowing us to see them in a new light. In this light, we begin to realize that solitude is not a punishment, but a gift. It is a chance to step back from the noise and distractions of the world and to reconnect with the essence of who we are. It is an opportunity to cultivate a deeper sense of presence, to become attuned to the subtle rhythms of life that often go unnoticed in the busyness of our days. It is a reminder that even in the absence of others, we are never truly alone, for we carry within us the seeds of connection and belonging. This shift in perspective does not come easily. It requires patience and a willingness to sit with discomfort, to resist the urge to fill the silence with noise or the emptiness with distractions. But as we learn to do so, we discover a profound sense of peace and clarity. We come to see that the solitude we once feared is not a void to be filled, but a space to be embraced, a space in which we can come to know ourselves more fully and to experience the beauty and wonder of the world in a deeper and more meaningful way. The inner voice is one of the most intimate and elusive aspects of human experience. It exists as a constant companion, a quiet yet persistent presence that we often ignore or suppress in favor of the louder, more immediate demands of the external world. Yet when all other voices fade, when the noise and chaos of daily life subside, this inner voice remains, offering guidance and insight that no external source can provide. It is not always easy to hear, nor is it always comfortable to listen to, but in moments of solitude and reflection, it becomes a powerful source of clarity and strength. To listen to the inner voice is to step into a space of vulnerability. Unlike the voices of others, which often come with a veneer of reassurance or distraction, the inner voice speaks with a raw and unfiltered honesty. It reveals truths we may not want to confront and urges us to take paths we might otherwise avoid. This honesty can be unsettling, as it forces us to reckon with aspects of ourselves and our lives that we might prefer to ignore. Yet it is precisely this honesty that makes the inner voice so valuable. It does not flatter or cajole, it simply points us toward what is real and essential. The process of attuning ourselves to the inner voice requires practice and patience. In a world filled with constant noise and stimulation, the voice within is easily drowned out, reduced to a faint whisper amid the clamor of external influences. To hear it, we must cultivate a sense of stillness and presence, creating a space in which it can emerge and be heard. This often involves stepping away from distractions and allowing ourselves the time and solitude to reflect. It is not an easy task, as the mind tends to resist silence, filling it with thoughts and worries. But with persistence, we can learn to quiet the noise and tune into the subtle frequencies of our inner self. What we discover when we listen to the inner voice is a profound source of wisdom and guidance. This voice is not separate from us. It is an expression of our deepest self, a reflection of our core values, desires, and intuitions. It speaks not from a place of fear or ego, but from a place of truth and authenticity. When we learn to trust this voice, we gain access to a reservoir of insight that can help us navigate even the most challenging circumstances. It is not infallible. It does not guarantee that we will always make the right choices or avoid pain, but it offers a compass that points us toward what is meaningful and true. Listening to the inner voice also requires a willingness to embrace uncertainty. Unlike the advice of others, which often comes packaged in clear and actionable terms, the inner voice is more subtle and nuanced. It does not provide detailed instructions or guarantees. Instead, it offers hints and suggestions, nudging us in a certain direction or encouraging us to explore a particular possibility. This can be frustrating, as it demands that we take a leap of faith, trusting not only in the voice itself, but in our own ability to interpret and act on its guidance. Yet it is precisely this act of trust that allows us to grow and evolve. The inner voice often emerges most clearly in times of struggle or uncertainty, when we are forced to look inward for answers. In these moments, it becomes a source of resilience, reminding us of our strength and capacity to endure. It encourages us to persevere, even when the path ahead is unclear, and to remain true to ourselves, even when faced with external pressures to conform or compromise. It is a voice that calls us back to our essence, reminding us of who we are and what we value. Over time, as we become more attuned to the inner voice, we begin to develop a deeper sense of self-trust. This trust is not blind or unquestioning, it is grounded in the recognition that no matter how uncertain or challenging life may become, we have within us the resources to navigate it. The inner voice becomes a touchstone, a source of stability and guidance that we can return to again and again. It helps us to make decisions with confidence, to act with integrity, and to face challenges with courage and grace. The relationship with the inner voice is not static, it evolves as we do. As we grow and change, so too does the nature of this voice, reflecting our shifting priorities and perspectives. What remains constant, however, is its presence and its authenticity. It is a voice that is uniquely our own, shaped by our experiences, beliefs, and aspirations. And while it may sometimes challenge us or push us out of our comfort zones, it ultimately serves as a reminder of our capacity for growth and self-discovery. To heed the inner voice is to engage in a profound act of self-respect and self-care. It is to honor the wisdom that resides within us and to recognize that we are our own best guide. In a world that often encourages us to seek answers and validation from external sources, listening to the inner voice is a radical and empowering act. It affirms our autonomy and our ability to chart our own course, even in the face of uncertainty and doubt. And in doing so, it opens the door to a deeper and more authentic relationship with ourselves and the world around us. Taking responsibility for one's own journey is one of the most profound and transformative acts a person can undertake. It is a declaration of ownership over one's life, an acknowledgement that while circumstances may shape the environment in which we live, it is our responses and decisions that ultimately define who we are and where we go. This act of ownership is not about blame or burden, it is about empowerment. To take responsibility is to embrace the reality that we have the ability to shape our path, regardless of the challenges we face or the obstacles in our way. The moment we take responsibility, something fundamental shifts. We begin to see the events of our lives not as things that happen to us, but as experiences through which we can learn and grow. This shift in perspective requires a willingness to let go of victimhood, to release the notion that our happiness or success depends solely on external factors. It does not mean denying the difficulties or injustices we may encounter, rather. It means recognizing that while we cannot always control what happens to us, we can control how we respond. This realization is both liberating and daunting, for it places the power and the responsibility for our lives firmly in our own hands. Taking responsibility also involves a process of self-reflection and accountability. It requires us to examine our actions, choices, and even our thoughts with honesty and clarity. This is not always an easy task, as it can bring to light aspects of ourselves that we may find uncomfortable or difficult to accept. Yet it is only through this process of self-awareness that we can begin to identify the patterns and beliefs that hold us back and to make conscious choices that align with our values and aspirations. Accountability is not about self-criticism or punishment, it is about recognizing where we have the power to make changes and taking action to do so. This act of taking responsibility often begins in small, seemingly insignificant ways. It might involve choosing to wake up earlier to pursue a personal goal, taking the time to repair a strained relationship, or making a decision to prioritize one's health and well-being. Each of these choices, while small in isolation, represents a step toward greater self-reliance and autonomy. Over time, these small acts of responsibility accumulate, creating a sense of momentum and confidence that allows us to tackle larger challenges with greater ease. One of the most transformative aspects of taking responsibility is the sense of agency it provides. When we accept responsibility for our lives, we begin to see ourselves as active participants in our own stories, rather than as passive bystanders. This shift in perception can have a profound impact on our sense of self-worth and empowerment. We come to understand that we are not at the mercy of fate or circumstance, but that we have the ability to shape our destiny through our choices and actions. This understanding is not about control in the conventional sense, it is about recognizing that, even in the face of uncertainty, we have the power to act with intention and purpose. Taking responsibility also requires a willingness to embrace failure as part of the journey. When we take ownership of our decisions, we inevitably encounter setbacks and challenges. These moments can be difficult, as they often come with feelings of disappointment or regret. However, they also offer valuable opportunities for growth and learning. By taking responsibility for our failures, we can examine what went wrong, identify what we might do differently in the future, and use these experiences to become stronger and more resilient. Failure, in this sense, is not an end, but a beginning, a chance to start anew with greater insight and clarity. This journey of taking responsibility is not one that we undertake in isolation. While it is ultimately a personal endeavor, it is also deeply interconnected with our relationships and communities. When we take responsibility for our actions and choices, we contribute to a culture of accountability and mutual respect. We become more mindful of how our decisions impact others, and we are better able to build relationships based on trust and integrity. At the same time, we inspire those around us to take responsibility for their own lives, creating a ripple effect that extends beyond ourselves. Taking responsibility also involves a deep sense of trust, not only in ourselves, but in the process of life itself. It requires us to believe that, no matter how difficult the journey may be, we have the capacity to navigate it. This trust is not always easy to cultivate, especially in moments of doubt or uncertainty. Yet, it is this trust that allows us to move forward, to take risks, and to embrace the unknown. It is a trust that is built gradually through experience and reflection, as we come to see that we are capable of meeting the challenges that life presents. To take responsibility is, in many ways, an act of courage. It requires us to confront our fears, to let go of excuses, and to step into the unknown with an open heart and a determined spirit. It is not a one-time decision, but an ongoing practice, a choice that we make each day as we navigate the complexities of life. It is a commitment to ourselves and to our potential, a recognition that we are both the architects and the inhabitants of our own lives. Through this commitment, we not only transform our relationship with ourselves, but also with the world around us.